So welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin.
I'm Tarsha.
This is Conversations with the Crawleys, and we do conversations about faith, family, relationships, and we're also doing interviews now. So if this is content that you enjoy, you know what to do by now. Hit that subscribe, hit the like, request notifications,
and share.
We'll see you in the comments, and we need y'all to go ahead and hit them comments right now. Consider becoming a member and checking out the merch store.
Now, know we've done interviews.
We have done interviews, right?
So you can't say we started doing interviews. So
but we're going to be doing them more often.
Oh, okay.
As your relationship coaches on YouTube, we're going to be doing that more often because this conversation actually sprung from a something that was happening in the Ready to Love world. You all know that's one of the shows that we review. And who is it? Simone and Rashid. They were one of the success stories of Ready to Love.
Right.
But recently they announced, or at least Simone announced, Rashid confirmed that they are not moving forward with their marriage
at this time.
At this time, there's still hope, in my opinion. But it was because of some things that happened in their engagement process.
Correct.
And so it, again, sparked the conversation of, okay, what happens when you're engaged and things change?
Right. Or something goes awry or not as you're expecting it to go, right?
Exactly.
So
I've got some long-term friends that I'm going to bring on here in just a moment, who I've known them for a while, but they have a story to tell about what we're calling engaged in emergency. So I'm going to bring on our guest, David and Miriam Berry. What's going on, brother and sis?
Hey,
what's going on? Peace, peace.
Awesome.
So good to have you.
There we go.
Yes.
Some audience and claps.
Some audience claps. Come on, we know how to do guests.
All right. So just by way of introduction, I've known David, it's been what, 30 plus years?
Yes, sir. It's been a minute.
David was one of the guys in our church who was a big brother in many respects. And then Miriam came along, and Miriam became big sis as well. And so I've known them for years. And then after I got married to Tarsha, then we went back to Chicago and we all met and sat and talked. And so we've been just kind of connected. But go ahead.
You said wonderful.
Oh, yes. So, but before we get started, one of the things we do whenever we do interviews is we do kind of an icebreaker just to get everybody's mojo flowing and everything, right? And so I figured, I know you guys. We're going to do a little thing called One Gotta Go.
Okay.
Divine 9 edition.
Started the stuff already.
Y'all
know I can be a little messy sometimes.
Extra petty. Oh no.
So, and we're gonna do opposite. So, David, you're gonna say which of the sororities you're saying, if they drop out, I'm okay. And Miriam,
Pleading the
you're
fifth.
gonna do of the bros. Well, not bros because that limits it. But of the fraternities, which one is like, yeah, we could do without?
I know which one she's gonna say though.
Okay.
I already know.
Now on the lady side, we have AKA Delta Sigma Theta, Zeta Phi Beta, and Sigma Gamma Rho. Did I miss one? I think those are the four.
I think you got them all.
Yep. So I know which one, of course, is staying.
You hope, right?
Well,
yeah, there is life after the podcast. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, Kevin.
You know, I'm gonna go. I'm I'm sorry for all the ladies of this organization who are watching, but you know, I'm gonna go with SG Row. Gotta go.
Sigma Gamma Rho.
Wow.
It didn't take them long to think of that either.
No.
Do you care to share what they're gone forever? So
they're gone.
Wow.
They're gone forever. I think anything after I want to say 1915, you know, it's kind of late in the game. So I know which one Miriam's going to pick.
Iota Phi Theta.
Yeah, I mean, we can call Iota Phi Theta's founders on the phone right now. I think I got a phone number for one of them.
You like
let me just say this.
Chapter.
I think that I speak for my husband when I say we really wanted to plead the fifth. Because with the Divine Nine, it's all love.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
it's all love.
I never pledged.
Yeah,
things
when he was going through on his line.
Oh my goodness.
So can I tell that story?
Go right ahead.
So while I was going through my process in the city of Chicago, very naive soul that I was, figuring that being in Chicago, most of everybody would be away at their campuses, wherever they were. So our process started around the Thanksgiving and then Christmas and extended through Christmas break. So everybody was home. And I remember being out in the subway doing some field service. Now, if you can imagine, let me take you back to Kid and Play, had one of those going on. Prior to starting my process. And so I'm doing my field service and my fatigues and boots and everything. And Kevin, I forget who you were with, but I saw Kevin in the subway because I was walking to change trains. And so Kevin, who has a very, very, very sharp sense of humor, I think both of our default settings are sarcasm. Looked at my head and said, I guess it ain't house no more.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it was a very interesting time.
Yes. So David, you are a proud member of
Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
All right. And Miriam, you are a member of
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
There we go. All right. So we just, again, we do this as kind of an icebreaker. We've done this before on my other podcast that I was doing. Just so y'all know, we have banished Israel Houghton to purgatory. We've had some people that have kicked, who is it, William McDowell away.
Wow.
They is gone for life for many folks. So we have fun with one gotta go. But all right.
Wow. I like that. I think we're gonna adopt some of these things. I'm learning a lot.
Yes. All right. So again, this conversation came up because of what happened in our world as far as watching Ready to Love and the story that happened with the couple that was on there. And again, just to kind of catch everyone up, they were engaged. In their situation, there were some monetary issues that they had known about. He was open and honest about, but she got to a point, the woman in the relationship got to a point where she's like, I don't know if I can deal with this, and broke things off. Okay. But we're, again, as part of just, again, trying to help people in their relationships, we said, okay, well, engagements is kind of that test of whether or not you're going to move forward. And a lot of times, if you don't do the heavy lifting and do the work beforehand, you'll find yourself, in a situation where you get married and you're like, wait, we ain't talk about this.
Right. Or you weren't aware of something that's going on. And first, if you can tell us guys like how long you've been married and when's your anniversary.
Okay. David and I got married September 29th, 1990.
Okay.
90. Let that Chicago 90, let that Chicago 90s come out. But 90, because that word does have a T at the end. So we have been married 32 plus years, and the Lord saying the same. On September 29th, we will be married 33 years.
Wow. That's what I was talking about. Black love. Yes.
All glory to God.
All glory to God. And so in that, obviously, there's that period where, you know, David sees you or something magical happens where you guys meet. And can you kind of start from, you know, how you guys met and a little bit of your dating process?
Well, there's a lot there, a lot to cover. We went to high school together.
We met in high school.
Oh.
Graduated together. So there's a lot there.
There were sweethearts, high school sweethearts?
Yes, we went to
kind of sorta.
We started dating our senior year.
That's why I say kind of sort of. So we didn't date all through high school.
Right. Okay. I remember being in a couple of classes with Miriam.
Sophomore, junior
year, very attractive now. I had to figure out what I needed to do to get in her orbit because I'm an introvert by nature.
I'm not.
At that point in my life, probably a lot shyer than I am now. But just took me a couple of years, 2.5 years to try to figure out how to get in her space. And actually, when we started dating, I think it was the fall of 1984, beginning of our senior year.
Correct.
Okay.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So now, if you grew up in Chicago in the 80s, you'll remember this phrase. It was a way to put yourself out there without putting yourself out there. So I said, you know, Miriam, do you think we could talk? And I was fully expecting to hear a no. I had my gym shoes on. I was ready to go to the gym. And then this one goes, I think that can be arranged.
That's exactly what I said.
Really?
I said, I think that could be arranged.
So here's what happened. Here's what happened immediately after that, though. I think that could be arranged. Then she kissed me. Nice, simple little kiss. So it just like jacked up the rest of my day because I think I had you were going to lunch.
Yeah,
and I was going to gym.
It was like the middle of the
day. I can't
day.
remember anything else I did that day. It was over with.
Oh my goodness. And it's so funny. He still remembers how he felt after all these years.
Absolutely.
That's 1984 and he still remembers how he felt. That's so beautiful.
I'm gonna cover and omit a lot of ground for the simple reason that on this day, 33 years ago, August 3rd, I was probably just coming out of surgery and was in ICU because I had a malformation of blood vessels in my brain that had begun putting pressure on my optic nerve, taking my sight and giving me major headaches.
Wow.
So probably around this time, 33 years ago, I'm coming out of surgery and I'm in ICU. 7 weeks before I turned 23 and 8 weeks before we were to be married.
Wow.
So when you talk about engagement and that path to marriage, for me, I hadn't envisioned my girlfriend, fiance, soon to be wife being a nurse.
Right.
I didn't have that in my orbit. So I remember the morning I was to go up to surgery, I actually put my family out of the room because they were in varying states of just freaking out. I remember distinctly before I went up for surgery, everybody was trying to decide who was going to pray before I went up. So folks are looking around at each other. I said, forget it, I will pray because I'm ready to, get
Yeah.
underway. But
Mhm.
I remember just telling Miriam, first of all, don't know how this is going to turn out. There was no guarantee that the sight I had lost over the weeks that this had gone on I was gonna recover it. And so since we were friends before we started dating, I said, as a friend, I totally get it if you need to make some other decisions because you didn't sign up to be anybody's nurse. That's not what I asked of you.
Yeah.
And then I kind of gave her some details about how I wanted my services to be in case this was it.
Wow.
So I think for us,
So let's, if we can, David, a little bit, let's kind of unpack that, right?
yeah.
So I'm assuming something happened where did you lose any type of consciousness that the doctor was aware of what was going on with you? How did you even know that you had this going on in your brain?
Great question. So I would say this is the beginning of August. I was hospitalized at the end of July. I think at the beginning of July or even June, we had a church picnic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out there playing basketball, being me. Kevin knows how I am. Very aggressive, very physical. Like that's just how I play sports. Had a severe headache and was just nauseous. And again, it was, we're up in Michigan at a camp. It's really hot and humid. I basically just go lay down somewhere. If you got squeamish listeners, you can kind of edit this out. I'm vomiting. It's not a good deal. Get home that evening, rest up, recovered the next day. But over the course of time, I just noticed a steady decrease in my field of vision.
Mm-hmm.
So the day I was hospitalized, or the morning I was hospitalized, I woke up out of a sound sleep with a horrendous headache.
Mm-hmm.
I had moved into an apartment in Oak Park. This is prior to us getting married.
Mm-hmm.
So we secured a place to live. I'm staying there. So I'm up with this headache. All the lights are off. I'm feeling my way around to the bathroom so I can get, some whatever aspirin or medication I had in the medicine cabinet. Turned on the light, and lo and behold, I can see nothing.
Wow.
Wow.
So I think I first called my mom to let her know what was going on, and then called 911, and an ambulance came and took me to. At the time, I don't think Michael.
No, I think your mom picked you up.
Did my mom pick me up?
Yes.
Oh yeah, took me to Michael Reese,
which doesn't even exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Non-existent hospital.
I had, within the course of about 36 hours, I had a CAT scan, a spinal tap, and a couple of more procedures, MRI, and a couple of more procedures, so I could kind of figure out what was going on.
Okay.
I don't even want to remember the angiogram. That was the worst of the bunch.
Wow. And then at that moment you started thinking, I need to think of Miriam, her life, what she did sign up for, what she didn't sign up for, because you're asking a question to a woman who knew you in high school, you're dating, you're in college, and you love each other, right? No one thinks of the worst, like, oh my gosh.
And also long distance, because you were still.
That's right.
You were
Miriam's at Spelman. I was still here in Illinois.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I went away to Spelman College and graduated in 1989. And like I said at the beginning of this, David and I got married the next year in 1990. I remember even before David, I remember how I sent you to my eye doctor. Because even before that,
there was
like in the spring, like maybe April and May, he was like, things were looking kind of fuzzy. I said, well, why don't you just go get your eyes checked? This. We have no idea that it's something internal, like we're just thinking it's just with the eyes. And it really wasn't the eyes. It was what was happening in his brain. Of course, we didn't know.
Right.
I just remember always from the time that we kind of started to get to know one another better, always wanting to be in a position to help and kind of serve. I just always kind of fell into that role with David. And so I don't think I fully understood. I don't even think I really was thinking about the ramifications of what life with David would be like if he did not fully recover. But I couldn't imagine me going on with my life, always wondering how he was doing, you know, like how he was making it, I just couldn't imagine that because I really cared for him and loved him that much. Man, it was challenging. I do remember the day I was at our church. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was at our church and our pastors had announced that we were going to start this consecrated time of prayer in the church. Simultaneous to this devastating news, right? God knew. None of us knew it, right? But when I tell you, David called to, you know, kind of like, this is like near the end of the day, kind of like now. It's like maybe it's like 7 o'clock, something like. It's in the evening though. I have no idea kind of what's going on until later on. He's like, I wanted to call and tell you I'm at the hospital. I'm like, what? Because I have been calling him, no response. I'm getting irritated. Like, what is this? What?
Why you didn't answer my calls?
Answering my phone call. You know, but he finally reached out to me. Long story short, you know, they see something on my brain. They don't know if it's a brain tumor and I'm what?
Yeah.
Just trying to process.
I start like freaking out. So our pastors are there at the church. I'm sharing with them. They immediately, people were coming because I remember Sister Crawley. I remember Kevin's mom just vividly. She was so calm, so full of faith, giving me scriptures. I still remember this. And people were coming to the church because this was like the inaugural prayer time.
Right. Right.
When I tell you that the word got out about David, and when I tell you everyone had this united reason to pray, it was a beautiful thing. Yeah. And it kept going week after week. Like it did not stop. And I promise you, God answers prayers.
So you're at this time, you're trying to figure out what's going on with your fiance, who finally gets back to you, tells you he's in the hospital, and you're trying to get to him, I'm assuming, right at this point, because he's told you.
Yeah. I remember wanting to be where he was, and because of our relationship at that time, I'm just the fiance. Like I'm not family. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I experienced some levels of frustration that I just cannot describe.
Yeah. Because they wouldn't let you in the room, or
I never even went. I did not want to frustrate myself even further by going to where he was, only to be told, you know, we appreciate the fact that you love him and he loves you, but who are you? Right? You're not his wife, so you're just a, you know.
Can we circle back around to a question you asked, Tarsha?
Sure.
After the first couple of tests, I'm actually at the hospital by myself after consulting with the doctor, who is now consulting with the surgeons, because they're trying to game plan their next plan of action. My mom's no longer at the hospital. As Miriam says,
I didn't know any of this.
She's not there. So it's just me and God. So at the time at 22, I'm trying to figure out in terms of how I'm going to make an income and what I'm going to do with my life. Kevin, if you remember, at this time, the Arena Football League is just starting up, and teams all over the Midwest are having open tryouts. And prior to this happening, I was conditioning myself to go try out for the Chicago team.
Really?
No, I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. You were going to play arena football.
Correct.
Wow.
22,
Okay.
you know.
I wasn't a fan.
She wasn't a fan of it.
But it was okay. I mean, I know he's still he's Mr. Football. He loves football.
So I'm having what I call a Psalm 13 conversation with the Lord.
Wow.
Very open, honest, raw. God, I'm not out here wilding. I don't have babies everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
How does this fit in your plan for me?
Mm.
Like, tell me honestly what's going on. And the only conclusion I came to was that in his sovereignty, this would be for his glory. And my peace was that no matter how this turned out, he was still working this out for his glory and my good.
Amen.
So in the like the 2 to 3 hours where I was just there by myself, it was a very honest conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But yet you still, you love this person, this person loves you, but you're still giving them an out instead of just saying, oh, they're going to love me through this. They know me. I expect her to be there. I expect her to be on my side of my bed. I expect her to take care of me when this is over. What made you feel you could even give her an option that she
that subject with her?
Option? Because some people be like, you know what, you love me, baby, you gonna take
that's a great
because we haven't said for better or for worse yet.
No,
but
we haven't said any vows. Absolutely, that's right.
So what's the difference between today and tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah, so I think for me it comes back to having a self-sacrificial love for her, meaning that I think one of the cruelest jokes that our culture plays on us is the repetition of this lie: you complete me. I think a lot of people, when you go into relationships like that, you're putting too much pressure on that individual to be for you what the Creator says He is going to be for you.
Amen.
And so, in the way I processed it at 22 is kind of the same way I process it now. Is that if this person is my friend and I care for her, I'm looking out for her interests and putting her interests ahead of mine.
Wow, that's good.
And so, for me, I'm like, if the worst happens, that's really going to suck because I won't be here. Well, okay, so let's be honest. I'll get the better part of that deal because I'll be in glory. So,
right.
It's just, but if I'm still here, what kind of quality of life do I want for not just my fiance, but this person who's my friend?
That's good. That's good.
So
I appreciated that. I when you're in the moment of an emotional thing like that, you don't really have time to fully unpack or dissect every piece. Obviously, I've had years, and I thank God I've had decades to think in retrospect. He's so faithful. He's so awesome. I love God. And the fact that David would put everyone who was his relative out of a room and say, you stay, because I believe and trust that you will carry out what it is I want. Should God be calling me home, I know that you will. I wasn't really thinking about how deep that really was at that time, because we were so young, and really our level of relationship with the Lord was so true. It was real. But as I think about how much we've grown spiritually over the decades, that was very young as well, our relationship with God. But the faith that we had was we walked in that, right?
Mhm.
And it was, and I can say, and I'm sure that you all can attest to this as well. Sometimes you go through some of the hardest times, and it's what builds your faith the most.
Mhm.
And
Because
your relationship.
and it just builds the relationship. Yes.
Mhm.
And it fortifies you for the next valley experience that you have no idea that you're going to have. So anyway, I was like, I really appreciate you saying, these things, but I'm going to stay, with you.
Mhm.
I don't want you to be by yourself recuperating from this, because I wasn't even thinking. That was I remember him saying that, and that was the closest. I've never fainted in my life, but I remember I felt like I was about to.
Mm.
I've never had that physical experience prior to that or since then. Never. I felt like I was going to pass out. But when he said that, I was like, no, like, don't talk like that. I just wanted him to be better than what he was, because when he got to the end of by the time he got to August 3rd,
Mhm.
his sight was just about totally gone. Like, he couldn't read. He had to be read to. He would say, "Where are you? I hear you, but could you stand over here?" Like, there was just a little quadrant of his eye where he could kind of see a little bit of me, but couldn't really see at all. And it's hard to believe, to see him, preach a sermon now, drive, all these things. I remember him not being able to do any of those things.
Yeah.
God is amazing. He's just so faithful. So yeah, I remember after I was so adamant about, no, we're going to go forward. I remember then there was conversation. Well, do you want to marry him now?
Like right before he goes into surgery?
Well,
or are you talking about in the future? Like, do you want to still marry him now, or are they talking about?
No. The conversation was, well,
let's get the priest up here right now.
Before the wedding we had planned, like, do you want to get married, like, in the next, when he gets out of the hospital?
Okay.
So that when he comes home, he's got a wife there. And I'm thinking, no, now that no, because
you ain't gonna mess my plans up, devil.
I have this beautiful dress. My daddy is going to walk me down the no, I'm not saying that.
Right.
I will marry him, but no.
Right.
So then it was planned. Then I remember Pastor was like, well, should we put a chair, up at the altar? Like, David, maybe you need to sit through the ceremony.
Okay, so here's why that's suggested. You have to remember now, I'm ramping up to play semi-pro football.
Right.
I go from probably about 195.
You lost a lot to 155.
Maybe about 10% body fat to down to about 150 pounds.
He lost a lot of weight.
Wow.
But then you picked it back up rapidly.
Well, yeah,
not in a very healthy way.
My dad had a lot to do with that. He was
bringing him to eat.
Yes.
So by the time we got married, his weight was back up. He looked good, healthy.
Okay. But okay, so you're asked, hey, potentially we might need to speed up your wedding. You're like, no, we're not. I do have this wedding in mind. Even though you're hearing all this, your fiance is telling you, baby, if I don't make it, and you're like, you ain't going there. You're gonna make it. And you have your church family, right? They're a community, which I feel like sometimes we don't have a community to back our couples up, to help them in times of need.
Amen.
Where their faith might be a little bit low, or they need that encouragement that they can make it through tough times. So you have that great background of that great community there. And even though they're pulling on you like, okay, he's going to make it, but you might need to do this quick, you still seem to keep this steady faith of knowing things were going to be okay and it was still going to work in your benefit. What made you know that I can still have the wedding? I don't need to rush it, even though I know what I plan is not going to happen. But staying steadfast, you know, because people could say, oh yeah, I do want to marry him. I don't want something to happen. And then I didn't have the opportunity to marry him. Like, you know,
I want to say
that's an interesting part. That's
yes,
similar in both of our characters. But I want to hear your
we're
response
very
to
well.
that.
So let me say this. Yes, I had faith, but I also was asking questions of people who I felt were reputable to give me answers. So, for example,
That's good.
the day that David had the surgery, we're in the waiting room on pins and needles. And I see the surgeon come down after what seemed to be an eternity. And he said, okay, you know, we finished the surgery, you know, this. And I'm like, excuse me, sir, I'm his fiance, you know, what about his sight? He said, well, we repaired the damage. He said, right now I'm working on saving the sight. Which eye is it?
It's,
Which one is the good eye?
The good eye. Sit back and watch the race with your good eye. Those of you follow.
Oh my God. Okay. Which one is the good eye?
The good eye is the left one.
Okay. So I'm asking him about the right eye.
Another TLC reference there. I'm sorry.
I'm asking him about the right eye that had been affected. So basically what he said was he does have sight in the good, you know, in the left eye. And I'm like, well, what about the right eye? He says, well, it'll be kind of hard to determine. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, he has some sight.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
This is a sign for me to keep moving forward. Okay. So then he stays in the hospital for a couple of days. I'm able to visit him. You know, be very quiet. You know, don't be boisterous. Like he's good. So I go see him. How are you feeling? You know, I go see him.
I have to interrupt you for a second. I'm chuckling because when they're telling her to be quiet. So if you've ever visited my church, it took me a while to get back in the sanctuary because
he would have to sit. Yeah, he couldn't come in.
Yeah.
That's an aside. He couldn't. That's so true, Tarsha. He couldn't come into the sanctuary for a while. He had to sit
in the back.
In the back. Yeah. He couldn't come into the sanctuary because it was so boisterous with high praise. He couldn't. It was too loud.
Okay.
So I respected that. Kind of spoke just above a whisper. Asked him. He was like, my head hurts. This and that.
Okay.
But in between that time when he was in ICU, obviously he doesn't remember any of this, but he was the only person I recall in there that was breathing on his own. Like he had nothing. He had nothing. He was so physically strong. That was another sign. So the nurse that she said, you can come close. I was kind of like looking, she's trying to tend to him and whatever, the ICU nurse. She said, you could come close. You can hold his hand. And evidently one of his hands must have been sore or something. Maybe where he had the IV. The IV, I grabbed the wrong hand because he kind of pulled it back. I'm like, oh, so I grabbed the other hand. I still remember this. And she said, when are you getting married? I said, in 8 weeks. She said, oh, he'll be ready.
Wow.
That's good.
Wow. Okay.
I want to circle back to something that you said that I think is very important. You said that you asked questions of people that were qualified to give you answers. And I think sometimes what happens in relationships is that we ask questions of people that are not qualified to give us advice.
Woo!
So
Woo!
Talk through that, because I know that situation, that's not something that you can go to all of your girlfriends or all of your homeboys about. You had to find those people that could then say, okay, this is what you're looking at. This is how this can work. This is how. So kind of talk through that for me for a moment.
Well, I think one of the things we've been doing a live broadcast on my Facebook page for about 3 years now, and one of my, I guess it's a soapbox. I don't know what you want to call it.
A passion.
But I just feel this in my spirit. A lot of times we're looking for advice, first of all, from people we can't touch or be in the same room with and breathe the same air. And we see images on social media of couples who seem like they have everything together, not understanding that social media is a very curated experience.
It is.
And so having said that, it's very important. You talked about the community that supported us through this particular time. almost 33 years ago.
Mhm.
You have to have individuals who are not perfect,
Right.
but at least are on a journey of daily progress, saying, I
Mhm.
want to get better, and
Mhm.
here's what I need to do to get better.
Mhm.
You have to surround yourself with those types of individuals.
So
And I guess the layer under that is, for Miriam and I, is that we individually have to take the responsibility of disciplining ourselves to become the best versions that God designed for us to be.
Mhm.
Because when I can't, yes, I love her, she loves me, but I cannot control another adult.
Right. Right.
And so as an individual, that's why, okay, it's full circle. That's why it just angers me when people say dumb stuff like "you complete me."
Mhm.
I mean, we're not fractions.
Right.
you have to be 100%
You have to
whole.
be a
honestly.
whole person in Christ to understand covenant relationship,
Amen.
Mhm.
which means that covenant means that it's God's idea,
Mhm.
and
Amen.
because He is the author of the covenant,
Mhm.
and He is the architect of the covenant. If we're having issues, we got first of all consult the architect,
Right.
Mhm.
and then He's blessed us in community with individuals who understand, and from a very practical level, have been through some of the things that we're facing.
Now,
So, yeah,
oh, I'm sorry, not to interrupt you,
go ahead.
but okay, how did you know that? Is it something as you came along in life and you realized that even though we have these colloquialisms about you're my soulmate and these are the things we hear, right? Because we're kids or teenagers and we're watching the romance movies and, you know, we keep hearing these things over. What made you decide, I know Miriam can't complete me, but she's the person for me? Because you know, I think
So
sometimes we take for granted the nuggets and the insight we
Right.
receive individually and think that everyone can understand and should know that. Can you just kind of, what made you know that?
let me say this. I have to. Both of my parents are gone on now, but boy, did I have some amazing parents. My mother was the wisest woman. Oh my goodness! And I remember the day, August 3rd, 1990. My mother had got up extra early. She laid out my clothes into my shoes and said, "Let's go." Like, I'm driving. There's no way I'm letting you drive. You know, she was with me the whole time and she's in my ear the whole time. Now, you know, this. And David can speak about his own relationship with my parents because that, where you just said there are people giving you nuggets. I promise you, my parents sowed so much into what we have right now. My parents, when my mom passed, they had been married almost 48 years. You know, if they were they would still be married. That's what I saw. I saw no perfection, but like David's saying, my parents were just they're the ones that made me want to have a marriage and a family. My parents. And David can give his own testimony about that, but he came into my home literally as a 17-year-old. So he saw my family from a very young person as well. So I believe I was 42 years old when my mom passed. So you're saying, so David had been around my mother from the age of 17 all the way to age 42.
Wow.
And my father passed and we were 48.
Wow.
So I'm just, he can, as a matter of fact, I'm going to let him speak to that because this is kind of what you just said. Like, where'd you get these nuggets? And then our pastors, like this is what I know to be true. You have desires with it. When you put out what you want, you get it in return. So we were very transparent about what we desired, about how we wanted to please God. No, we weren't perfect, but we walked in the light that we had at that time. And we had people who saw that honesty and all of that. And they were just like, let me help you. Let me let you know this. Founder Mitchell, oh my goodness. You talk about, and just last week, this lady is over 90 years old, but she's still thinking into. You talked about Brother Mitchell, like we were married 68 years, such and such weeks, so and so days, and God, I'm to this day, she's still speaking into our lives, and I'm grateful. Okay, go ahead. I'll be quiet now.
I would say for me, it was a journey. So I was literally born, well, not literally, but born in the church. Don't know anything but the church.
Okay.
And so for me, as I got older and began to have more experiences outside the church and learn more information, it became apparent to me that there was what the Bible had to say about stuff and what we did traditionally as a church.
Okay. Okay.
Wow. That's another podcast. Invite us back
to see that divergence. I began to ask questions.
That's
that door.
Yeah,
so,
that's a whole other pot, not other.
But please ask us back for that because.
So, but that also included how we operated as a family. There were times, and I don't want to put anybody on blast, but there were times with the people I shared DNA with where Ephesians 4:32 would say, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, just as God in Christ Jesus is forgiving you. But I wasn't seeing that in the people that I shared DNA with. And so I began to ask questions. If we're supposed to be following in faith this word, why don't I see that in our day-to-day practice and conversations? So that extended into relationships for me. So I would observe siblings very closely to see whether or not these principles that we're supposed to be living by are actually being lived out in their lives. Because with a friend, y'all hang out, you have fun, but you all go to separate homes.
Right.
But what happens with people you see every day? That to me, that was more of a litmus test. So to be quite honest, Miriam has a younger sister. Two younger sisters, but one was a year behind us in high school. And they seem to always get along. Go figure. I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, I was attracted to Miriam, her personality, the whole nine, everything. Brick house, all that stuff.
She's a brick.
For our younger audience, that means she's a baddie.
So she got a body.
That means she was a baddie, all right?
I'm gonna make sure we translate for everybody.
Absolutely.
Good night.
So,
y'all about to go?
Yes, all that was there, but I think for me, what was just irresistible was the fact that this person was in a relationship with a sibling, and they freaking got along.
Wow.
And so, I had to do my due diligence and investigate, because to me, if that's happening with the siblings, the parents have got to have a hand in that happening, because mom is not with them at school. So they know how to conduct themselves with all the craziness that high school brings with it. And so, for me, it was a real journey of, I wanted to be on a path where I was living a life out loud that was consistent with the scriptures in every area of my life.
That's good.
And so that's really what really attracted me to Miriam. And it's been like that ever since. So
that's good. And I know we got to close. And, I hear, everything you said, it's just still more and more nuggets in there, you know. And I also understand that, you know, with social media, there is some good out there, right? Because you're saying, and we're talking about even in our Black community, a lot of us didn't grow up in 2-parent homes.
Right.
You know, my mom was a single mom, right? And there was addiction on my mom's side. All of her brothers were involved in some type of addiction, going in and out of prison because of drugs. My grandmother lived in the hood, like, you know, and lived in the projects, and I would visit her and she would watch us while my mom worked. And I know we're saying, like, you know, be careful who you watch online because you don't know how real they are and everything. But at the same time, people need you guys, right, to be online, because unfortunately their circumstances hasn't been as fortunate as what we're hearing today, you know, having to or having someone you could go over their house and see a 2-parent home. Because I didn't get a chance to see a 2-parent home. You know, when I went over Kevin's house, and just still trying to be quick, is that, like you said, everybody having fun and they're staying up all night and no one's drunk. No one's no one's rolling up a joint.
Come on, girl. Come on.
Ain't going to do all this undercover stuff. You know what I'm saying?
That's real.
And to see that, I'd be like, oh, your whole family together. They like each other. Like, didn't we just went over your mom's house and your auntie came over? Weren't we at church together? Why is your auntie here now? Like, y'all
know how
we know.
Diane and Cecilia,
my sister Diane, absolutely
work together all day, come home, get on the phone, spend 2-3 hours on the phone, and then find a reason to come up.
Right. And so I'm looking like, what is wrong with y'all? Like, you know, you think because of your perspective of life, right? And I didn't have social media. I didn't have anyone to give me nuggets. So I'm making those mistakes, right? I'm making mistakes in my marriage. You know, I'm told by my mom, I gotta be strong. You don't know if the man's gonna stay. You don't know how your relationship is. He left me, you know, doing some things. You don't know. You gotta be prepared. You know, so I applaud that, but at the same time, I feel a little grieved that unfortunately, because of life and because of all the things that the world offers, we all are not getting the opportunity that we could have had as a childhood. But at the same time, I'm thankful for social media that you're coming on Facebook and you're sharing your experiences to help the generations who had single teenage parents.
Real quick, and then we'll let you guys kind of finish up and
give your handles and everything,
your social medias and all that stuff. But one of the things I know we've talked about is that you don't recognize dysfunction until you see normalcy.
It's true.
Many times we find ourselves in dysfunction and think that it's normal because that's all we've known.
That's right.
Right. Growing up, we watched the Cosby Show because it felt like, oh, that's what family's supposed to be like. That's what everything's supposed to be like. But then we had the comparison of, well, that's not what my family looks like, right? You know, in some neighborhoods, some communities, you can drive through that community and there's cars all over the front lawn, right? That's dysfunction because the car doesn't belong on the front lawn. But if that's what you grew up in and that's all you know, that's normal until you get exposed to something else that's different. So whether it's relationships, whether it's your relationships with your parents, your siblings, your spouse, whatever it may be, many times we don't recognize the dysfunction that we've experienced until we make a decision to either choose normalcy or we experience normalcy and say, oh no, I like normal better than dysfunction.
And then you have to know what is your normal. Because I hear what you're saying, right? Because in the South, you ain't had no parking lot. Your car was going to be up on your yard because you own acres. Like,
still ain't normal.
Right? Because if you're in the city, come on now, to be honest, right? You didn't have a garage.
True, but I'm talking about Southside Chicago. You got your Cutlass on the front lawn. That don't work.
That could be different, right? Because I think down south, I was like, yeah, your yard, your car pulls up to the porch. You know,
it's different perspectives.
It's different perspectives. You know,
it is.
But I want you guys to just say just a last few words or so, and then give your social media handle, how people can reach out and see you on your lives and when you come on.
And on your TikToks and whatever else you've got.
Absolutely. So we're now you can find me. I'm David Berry. I'm the same all over the place. David Berry. Actually, the Instagram handle is Dandrew at Titanview, and that's also the handle on TikTok. But you will find information there because we intend to influence and talk about health, wealth, and relationships, and just really shift that paradigm in terms of what is working towards a healthy relationship. We're on live every Thursday evening on my Facebook page.
David Berry.
Correct. And our standard is this: we're not marriage therapists or counselors. We're just a couple of people who've been married almost 33 years. And we're hoping that you can learn something from both our tragedies and triumphs. No perfection here, just daily progress.
That's good.
And so that's what we are.
You said something, Kevin, about making a decision. That's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to make a decision. And we broke that down one time when we went live about the root of the word decision, decidir, which is basically cutting off all other.
Actually, it's to kill off
all other options. When you make a decision, this is what it is, right? So if you make a decision that we're going to move forward, if we're going to progress, that's what we're going to do. And so we're still in this thing doing that. My handle, Facebook, I am Miriam, my maiden name, Upchurch Berry on Facebook. And on TikTok and Instagram, I am MS Miriam _ Titanview, all one word, TITANVIEW. Ms. Miriam _ Titanview.
Okay.
Awesome.
And I'll definitely make sure we put that in the description in this YouTube video.
Yes.
Awesome.
And just for people who just may have come on or you've been listening, next month we are going to be gathering again with Conversations with the Crawley. And we're going to be talking about adult children and aging parents with the Berries and sharing our experiences. We are finally, in a sense, empty nesters. We do have our son who is a roommate. We barely see him.
Yes, we understand that. We totally understand it. Oh, yeah.
And we are obviously having aging parents where we've been having discussions concerning wills and trust and all that stuff. That's been a difficult conversation, but again, it's the older teaching the younger, right? And it makes me want to make sure I have stuff lined up for my kids. And so next month we've already scheduled with the Berries to come on. I know they know on the financial side and all that great stuff. And we're so excited that they're joining with us. Right now, I'm going to say once a month. I'm almost going to make a commitment for the end of the year. I just feel it in my spirit that God is doing something. And so I'm excited. Every month we want to bring a different topic about how relationships and families affect us as couples and how we manage through those things. So stay tuned, stay with us as your relationship coaches, and we're going to bring you the real.
All right. So listen, that's it for this one. We will see you all next time. Again, make sure you are following, make sure you are subscribed. And then I'll have in the description just to make sure you have David and Miriam's information. But listen, y'all, stay blessed. Be blessed. We'll see y'all next time. Have a great one.
All right, Berries. Yeah, hold on 1 second for us.
All right. Peace. God bless you.